In a world where giants and humans were once believed to have been at war, a boy named Jack listens to his father as he narrates how a great king named Eric helped win the war. It all started when monks found magical beans that grew high up to the sky. As they climbed to explore what was at the top, they found giants who used the opportunity to climb down and invade Earth. During the war, King Eric gets his men to produce a crown that can help control the giants. With the crown, Eric is able to end the war and send the giants back to where they came from. But after he dies, the magical beans and special crown are buried with him so that no one else can ever get access to them. While the story sounds intriguing to Jack, his dad says it's only an old story that no one can confirm. Many years after the death of his parents, Jack is now working as a farmhand with his uncle. Since they're low on money, Jack's uncle tells him to take their horse and cart to the city so he can sell them and bring some money back. Jack immediately heads for the city, but soon gets distracted when he sees some actors narrating the story of King Eric in a play. As he's watching them, he sees a girl named Isabel and can't help but stare because of how beautiful she is. Shortly after, Isabel decides to leave, but some men try to harass her. Jack doesn't like this, so he goes to defend her. However, he gets punched in the face for that. As he then tries to tell the men to stay away from Isabel, some of the king's guards show up behind him to pick the princess. Jack doesn't realize this quickly and ends up being the only one who doesn't kneel. After the leader of the king's guard, Elmont, gets him to kneel, Jack then realizes that Isabel is the princess. She soon leaves with the guards, and Jack looks amused as he watches them. However, it doesn't take him long before he discovers that his cart is missing. Meanwhile, a loyal guard named Wiki meets with his boss and chief advisor to the king, Roderick, to inform him that the king is looking for him because the princess wandered off again. Roderick looks disgusted to hear this, and Wiki then asks if he'll let Isabel continue to run off after they get married. Roderick says he's not really bothered by that because he has big plans. As he's about to enter his chambers, he sees a monk heading out. Even though he looks surprised, Roderick doesn't say anything. However, as Roderick enters his office, he realizes that the monk has stolen something. It then turns out that Roderick stole King Eric's crown and the beans, which he had been keeping in his office. While the crown is still intact, it appears that the monk has left with the beans. He immediately tells Wiki to alert all the guards, so the monk doesn't escape. As soon as the gates are closed, the monk realizes that he can't escape without going through the other exit. He sees Jack still trying to sell his horse, so he asks for it, but only in exchange for the beans. Jack doesn't think this is a good trade, but the monk tells him that the beans are priceless relics from a very long time ago. The monk also adds that Jack will get paid handsomely if he gets the beans to the city's monastery. Before he leaves, he tells Jack to keep the beans very well and prevent them from getting in contact with water. As Jack looks confused, the monk leaves on his horse. However, Wiki sees him and immediately tells the other guards to stop the monk. Even though he tries to get as far as he can, the monk is eventually caught. Later that day, Jack takes the beans home, but his uncle gets angry because he expected some money instead. Jack says he can take them to the monastery to redeem his money, but his uncle says it's a waste of time because the monk probably lied to him so he could steal the horse. He eventually throws the beans on the floor, and while Jack is picking them up, a bean falls into the shed under the house. His uncle then says he's leaving the house to sell some of the things belonging to Jack's parents. Meanwhile, Isabel is scolded by her dad, King Bromwell, who tells her she must stop sneaking out. Isabel says she only goes out because she doesn't like staying in the palace all day. She also adds that she doesn't want to get married to Roderick. However, King Bromwell insists that she has to get married to Roderick and also keep up with her regular duties as a princess. Isabel doesn't like this, and after her father says she can leave, she walks out. Later that night, Isabel sneaks out of the palace, but eventually gets lost when the rain is about to start. However, she sees a nearby house and decides to head there to take cover. Meanwhile, Roderick and Wiki interrogate the monk to find out where the beans are. The monk doesn't give it up despite their threats, and this gets him killed. Elsewhere, Jack's uncle is yet to return from the market, so Jack decides to go out to look for him. As he opens the door, he sees Isabel at the entrance, so he lets her in because she says she's lost. As they're then talking, the rain starts entering the house and leaking into the underground shed next to the magical bean. Isabel starts looking around the house and sees Jack's book collection. She asks him what he likes reading, and he says he really loves adventures. He then asks why she left the palace that night, and she says she's looking for an adventure of her own. Before he says anything else, she thanks him for defending her earlier in the day. He says it's nothing, and as she prepares to leave, he gives her a book she can take with her. Just then, the bean in the underground shed comes in contact with water, and this causes a giant stalk to sprout and rip through the house before carrying it up. Isabel and Jack are caught up in this, and they get really scared. Jack falls from the house, but manages to climb back to save Isabel. However, he eventually falls down and only holds on to her bracelet, while the huge stalks keep taking her higher. In the morning, when Jack wakes up, he sees that he's surrounded by the king and his guards, who think he stole Isabel's bracelet. Jack defends himself and explains how Isabel came to him for shelter. He also says that she was about to leave before the giant stalk suddenly appeared. As he also mentions that Isabel was stuck in his house, King Bromwell realizes that his daughter is likely at the top of the stalk, so he tells Elmont to get his men to climb it to rescue the princess. Roderick offers to join the search so he can prove his love to Isabel, and even though Elmont doesn't think it's a good idea, the king agrees to let him join. Jack also volunteers to join the men, and Roderick says it's a good idea because he's still the only one who knows what really happened. After the king approves this, Jack joins the rescue mission. As they begin climbing, Jack asks Elmont if he thinks giants are at the top of the stalk. However, Elmont says he doesn't believe the story about giants. He also mentions that if Jack volunteered for the rescue mission so he can impress Isabel, then he's doing the wrong thing, because the princess won't be allowed to marry a farmhand. As they continue moving up, the cloud soon gets darker, and rain also starts falling. While Elmont, Jack, and one of his men named Craw are higher on the stalk, some other guards lose their grip on the rope, holding all the men together. Instead of helping them, Roderick tells Wiki to cut the men loose. Even though the men beg him not to do it, Wiki still cuts it, and when Elmont asks what's happening, Roderick says some of the guards slipped. Shortly after, they make it to the top of the stalk, only to discover that there's a strange kingdom in the sky. Before walking too far, Elmont sees Isabel's footprints, and this helps him realize that she's not too far away. As Elmont and the others move forward, Roderick and Wiki stop Jack to ask for the beans. He pretends like he doesn't know what they're talking about, but when they threaten to kill him, he hands over the beans to them. As they leave him alone, it then turns out that he has hidden one bean from them, and he keeps it in his necklace locket. He soon joins the others, and after looking around for a while, he enters a cave where he sees the book he gave Isabel. He immediately informs Elmont and the others about this, but as they check out the cave, they discover that she was dragged out by someone really huge. At this point, they start to believe that giants are real. They then decide to split up, and while Jack follows Elmont and Craw, Roderick and Wiki go with a guard named Bald. While going around, Jack and Craw get stuck in a trap. As they manage to escape, they're left shocked when they see a giant heading for them. Craw immediately hides behind a tree while Jack buries himself inside a river, with Elmont also staying hidden. However, Craw soon gets caught, and as Elmont tries to fight for him, he gets picked up by the giant, who then takes them away. But Jack manages to stay hidden before then sneakily following the giant. Meanwhile, Roderick and Wiki push Bald down the cliff before he finds out what's really going on. As they laugh about it, a giant shows up and kills Wiki. Before Roderick also gets killed, he brings out King Eric's crown, and this helps him control the giants. Elsewhere, the leader of the giants, General Fallon, starts interrogating Isabel about how she got up. While he's at it, Craw and Elmont are also brought in. Fallon then faces them and asks about how they got up, but Craw sounds really rude to Fallon, and this gets him killed. Shortly after, as Fallon is talking about how he's personally going to eat Isabel because she's one of King Eric's descendants, another giant named Fum disagrees. He says that since he found Isabel, he's the one who deserves to eat her. However, Fallon doesn't take this well, and he brutally beats up Fum to pass a message. As Fum then says Fallon is not his king, Roderick shows up with the crown on his head, calling himself the true king. Because of the controlling power of the crown, all the giants, including Fallon, are forced to bow for Roderick. Elmont and Isabel then tell him to save them, but he says they're not his business. Roderick then tells all the giants that he's going to set them free, so they can invade Earth under his command. Elmont and Isabel are left shocked by this, but Roderick doesn't seem to care. Fallon is also not convinced by Roderick's leadership. Shortly after, Roderick tells a giant to kill Isabel and Elmont for dinner. While Elmont is already being prepared for the oven, Isabel remains in a cage. A while later, Jack sneaks in with a plan to save them. Just as the giant is about to kill Isabel, Jack kills him instead, after which he helps Elmont and the princess. After they leave the building, Roderick sees what happened and immediately tells one of the giants to stand at the tower's entrance to stop Jack and the others from escaping. After mourning Craw, Elmont leads Isabel and Jack toward the entrance, but they find out there's a giant sleeping there. Jack then comes up with a plan to wake the giant and get him out of the way. He puts a beehive inside the giant's helmet, and not only does this wake him, but it also gets the giant to fall from the tower. Following this, Jack decides to go through with their escape plan, but Elmont says he needs to stay back to get the crown from Roderick. He then gives Jack a badge and tells him that he's now a member of the King's Guard. He also tells Jack to get Isabel home safely. With this, Jack leaves with Isabel, while Elmont stays behind. Back on Earth, King Bromwell and his men are left shocked to see the giant that fell from the sky. Because the giants could use the stalk to come down, the king tells his men to cut it down, even though his daughter is still up. While Isabel and Jack are on their way down, they see people with lights at the bottom of the stalk. However, Isabel says it's likely her father's soldiers who are preparing to welcome them. After a while, Jack then confesses his love for her, and she says she feels the same way. In the morning, Roderick leads the giants to the tower's entrance. As he's about to get them to start going down, Elmont attacks him, but none of the giants interfere. The fight lasts for a while, but Elmont eventually kills Roderick. However, before he can get the crown, Fallon picks Roderick's body and then wears the crown on his fingers. Following this, all the giants bow to him, but Fum doesn't look happy. Shortly after, Jack and Isabel realize that her king's men are cutting the stalk. They're then powerless as they watch the stalk snapping and falling from the sky. Elmont sees this and immediately climbs on it to make his way down and land inside the river near the castle. As Fallon sees that the stalk is gone, he looks disappointed because there's no longer a way down for him and his men. Meanwhile, Jack helps Isabel get down safely, and while King Bromwell looks depressed after seeing the stalk fall completely, he is informed that his daughter is still alive. He gets reunited with her, and she tells him about Roderick. She also mentions how Jack saved her, and the king rewards him with some gold. As Isabel is then about to head back to the castle with her father, Jack tells her not to forget him, and she says she won't. Meanwhile, Fallon suddenly sees the remaining beans that Roderick was keeping. He looks happy again and throws the beans to the ground. As they come in contact with water, new stalks are formed, and Fallon leads his men to climb down. Elsewhere, Jack starts walking home when he sees his horse again. As he's about to climb on it to leave, he sees that the giants are about to land. He immediately gets on his horse and quickly informs the king and Isabel about this. Elmont also takes back his role as the leader of the king's guards, and he gets his men to pour oil inside the river near the castle. As they light it on fire, the king and his daughter quickly get inside the compound. Meanwhile, the giants are now chasing Jack, who is running against time to climb on the drawbridge before it gets dragged up completely. He makes it in time, but Fallon hangs onto the bridge. Elmont and his men then shoot arrows at the giant until he falls into the burning river. As he struggles to survive, he calls on his men, but Fum ensures no one answers him. With this, Fum takes charge of the giants. However, Fallon finds a way to escape the fire, so he takes it. Under Fum's leadership, the giants get even more aggressive, and they start throwing things into the compound. King Bromwell then tells Isabel to go to the top of the castle to find a beacon that she'll use to inform the neighboring kingdoms of an imminent attack. He tells Jack to go with her, and after they leave, the king joins Elmont in trying to stop the giants from getting in. Shortly after, Jack and Isabel enter the castle, only to see Fallon breaking his way through. They immediately hide, but after looking around, he finds them. Just as he's about to kill Isabel, Jack tries to attack the giant, but he gets caught instead. Fallon then decides to eat him first, but before the giant can do that, Jack opens his necklace locket. With this, the only magical bean remaining falls into Fallon's mouth. The giant suddenly feels different, and he drops Isabel and Jack. Just as the stalk starts coming out of him, Fallon explodes, but Isabel and Jack are able to get to safety. Luckily, Fallon's fingers fall beside them, and they see King Eric's crown. Meanwhile, Fum has managed to cripple the castle's defense. As the giants make their way in, Elmont and the king lead their men back. Before Fum can then give his men the go-ahead to start eating the soldiers, he suddenly sees something that forces him to kneel. The other giants also kneel, and as Elmont and the king look behind them, they see Jack holding King Eric's crown. Jack then wears the crown and stands in front of the giants alongside Isabel, with the king and Elmont looking pleased with this. Many years later, after Jack and Isabel get married, they tell the story of the giant invasion to their kids, who are also in love with adventures.